Welcome back to the Bean Scene, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. I'm your host, Maxwell Schaefer, and I'm glad you're here. Today's episode is about a bean that travels the world and the people quietly finding new, innovative ways to grow it, sell it, and put it to work in places you'd never expect. We start at Paws Pints, Des Moines' beloved canine social retreat. Katie Dunlap, Director of Guest Relations, is going to tell us how around 300 dogs a day have been doing their thing on SYNLawn's soy-backed synthetic turf for 4 years running. The chairs? Destroyed. The turf? Going strong. Then we'll catch up with Aaron Putze, who's been on the ground in Bogotá, Colombia, several thousand miles from home on a trade mission with Iowa Soybean Association President-elect Lee Brooke. They'll share what it actually looks like to sit across the table from the buyers who depend on what Iowa farmers grow, and why face-to-face relationships halfway around the world matter back on the farm. And we close with Joe McClure, Chief Officer of the Research Center for Farming Innovation at the Iowa Soybean Association, for a Pods of Potential highlight. His team is running AI-driven field trials across Iowa, pitting data against decades of farmer intuition, and asking a question that's equal parts practical and provocative. Can a machine out-farm a farmer? 3 conversations. That bean traveling. Let's get into it. Here's Katie Dunlap of Paws Pints. Okay, what room are we sitting in right now?
So we're in our small dog park. Most of the time, people don't use it as our small dog park, but it's like a rentable space for birthday parties.
Is there like a height thing, like at the Adventureland for the roller coaster?
You have to be this tall. Let me tell you what, we do have about a width thing though, because there's a little chihuahua that has to wear wiffle balls on his harness.
A width thing?
Well, he's a little tiny baby. And so he has these little wiffle balls that we have him put on his harness.
So he doesn't get smushed
by the other... sneak through all the little grates.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yeah. He's a teeny tiny
Actually,
little thing.
That's a brilliant idea for people that have maybe a fence but a small dog comes over to.
I was like, I will make a deal with your membership if you put these wiffle balls on this dog. She's like, deal.
For people that don't know, what is Paws Pints?
So Paws Pints is a canine social retreat. Would be like our official title of Paws Pints. It's a dog park, it's a bar, it's grooming, it's lodging, it's daycare. And I think on top of all of that, it's community, which is probably one of my favorite things about Paws Pints is that it is this really unique hub of humanity in a society where people are more disconnected.
Well, it sounds to me like half of it is also a dog owner experience, obviously. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, definitely. Right. Like our members come. You don't have to be a member to come. You don't even have to have a dog to come. Sometimes people are like, do we have to have a dog to be there? Are people going to think I'm a weirdo? And I'm like, no one knows.
So I see turf everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
How much turf is here? And why not grass?
Oh, my goodness. We have indoor, outdoor turf areas. So we have this bark park or small dog park. Then we have our indoor park and our outdoor. All 5 of our daycare bays have a cement area and a let out space with the turf. And if you were to ask our owners again if they would probably do grass, I'm going to say that they would choose turf all day over grass.
Easier to clean.
Easier to clean, easier to maintain. When it rains, you don't have to close the backyard because of mud. I never even really take my dog to the backyard because I'm like, I have mud at home. I don't need you to go in the mud here.
I want to get some turf at home.
Correct. Right? You best believe.
So this turf is called SYNLawn, synthetic turf. And it has a soy-based backing. Now, this is the great connection that we have here.
Yeah.
And you've gotten your hands dirty with maintenance. What do? How do you maintain this with your, quote, grounds crew?
So it is really interesting. I used to just be sales and front desk, guest services. So then when I did get this position to kind of help with grounds crew, it's been very eye-opening on how much effort and just work. And honestly, the wear and tear, shout out to SYNLawn, whoop, whoop. Because this turf takes a beating on a daily basis from the dogs. So each day during the operation, we have little sprayers that we use to do like immediate spot checks for any residue. If there's a little gross, number 2 on the turf. So we spray it down right then and there to make sure that it's clean. And then at night, we have like a certain amount of cleaning procedures that go in. It varies on the day, but usually it's like a disinfectant. There's an enzyme, one that breaks down the poo residue. And then we use like a chemical for the smell. And all of those are dog safe. But that's still like at least 2 chemicals on this turf every single night, if not 3.
So, hundreds of dogs a day.
Oh, yeah.
And the turf is still going.
And she's still going each Wednesday. And then on Saturdays, too, we brush the turf. So we have little turf sweepers, which has been my favorite thing that I was helping them with.
So what's the craziest thing a dog has tried to do to this turf?
That's a tough one. They mainly just like to parkour off of all the furniture, but then getting that launch off of the turf and they're running, they're rotating.
Getting their claws in there, digging, right?
And they're pretty good. I haven't caught a dog trying to rip up the turf yet. That's probably a testament to grounds crew too, being like, you stop that right now.
We also sat down with Avery Blake, the facility manager at Paws Pints, who's been with the place since the beginning. You're involved in the day-to-day cleaning.
Yes.
And I have to say, for a dog park, when you walk in, don't you feel like it's really clean?
Yeah.
Smells good in here.
We work
it's really nice.
a lot on the smell. Is our biggest thing that we try to combat here. So we have a bunch of turf grooming that we do and spraying, and then we have scent machines that go into the central air duct.
Perfect, because I have no wet dog smell in this place at all, right? So explain in detail kind of what you do every day and how you clean the areas.
We brush the turf 2 to 3 times a week, kind of depending on the week. If we have heavier, busier weeks, we'll do more. If it's a slower week in the winter, we'll only brush twice a week.
And what does that brush look like?
So we have a gas brush, and then we have a few different electric brushes.
And how's this soy-backed turf hold up to that?
Good. We originally, when we started doing it, it would pull some of the infill out of the turf, but it never tore the turf up. But now that we've gotten roughly 4 years on it, it's doing really good. It's not pulling any of the infill out. It's not tearing up the turf. It just pulls all that dog hair out.
And then once you pull all that out, then what do you do?
So we have another brush that also collects the hair as it pulls it out. And then we also vacuum and rake it up. We have some hair rakes and just standard shop vacs and vacuums to vacuum up the dog hair.
And I see some spray bottles and things like that around. What do you do with those?
These here would be filled with a chemical that we have called Eliminator. It's a bioenzyme spray, so it just kills all the fecal matter and urine, and it just keeps the smell down.
Got it. And how many people do you have maintaining this space?
There's a team of anywhere between 4 to about 10 that will help work on it and maintain it throughout the year.
It gets hot during the day. The sun beats down on this turf. Turf probably gets a little hotter than grass per se, but how do you regulate the temperature?
So for dogs' paw pads, anything over 115 will start burning their paw pads. So as soon as it hits that 115, it starts to burn them fast. So around 111, 110, we start spraying the cement down with water, but the turf never gets above around 90.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yep,
so the turf does stay cool.
Yes, yep. We use infrared thermometers.
Wow, that's
you can lay your
great.
hand on them and it'll be warm to the touch, but it won't burn you. But when you point a infrared thermometer at it, it says it's reading like 180, 190-ish. But it's never actually that hot. It's just reading the temperature of the material underneath.
That's fantastic.
It's been really easy to work with. It's not really torn on us. In the few locations it was dogs digging at it. So it's really easy to work with, really easy to patch and fix.
Well, you got 4 years of use out of this and it still looks fresh and new.
Yeah.
How long do you think it'll last?
I would say probably 8 to 9 years. I don't think it'll ever become an issue of it not performing. I think it'll just be the fibers do eventually lay down
Sure.
I think just after about probably 8 or 9 years, it'll be almost flat. So we might look into replacing it then. But other than that, it's been holding up really well.
It's a great investment.
Yeah.
Well, you seem to have a tremendous amount of passion and energy for this work.
Yeah.
What keeps you coming back day to day?
Each day is different. And we obviously love the dogs and everything that they bring to the table. Like when the dogs, we celebrate with them, we mourn with our members, when that's the worst part about this job. Woof. But the joy that this job brings to other people too, I think sometimes in our jobs we get caught up in like the day to day and forget about the fact that this place is a really amazing community. It's an exciting experience for a lot of people. People will travel from all over to come to Paws and Pints.
How far away?
We've had people from Canada. We've had people from New York, California. I think that that's a really good testament to what we've created here and what, Kyle and Megan have done to create a nice little pocket of whimsical in today's world.
Which we need.
We do.
So, July's here, big month. You have big things coming up.
Yeah.
Give us a rundown of what we can expect.
Sure. So we have foam party coming up on July 4th, which is always a fun time. The dogs love the foam. We have Pupchella, which is like our take on Coachella for the dogs.
Wait, I want to get back to the foam party. What do you explain that? What do you mean?
So it's dog safe foam, and it's basically like this big giant cannon that just shoots out bubbly foam.
Oh, and the dogs must go nuts. Okay.
Yeah. And then we have our birthday party in August. We have a pool party coming up here shortly, our Porter's pool party. That is a fundraiser for the Porterinsky Foundation, which our owners created after they were opening Paws and Pints. They lost one of their Bernese Mountain Dogs. They felt very fortunate that they could afford those vet bills, but they realized in this space of being the people for the dogs that they wanted to create a foundation that would help other people be able to afford access to healthcare for their dogs. It's always cute seeing the dogs bounce around in all their pools.
That was Katie Dunlap of Paws and Pints, where the turf takes a beating from hundreds of dogs a day and keeps on going. 4 years of paws, claws, foam parties, and a very committed grounds crew. And through all of it, a soy-based backing holding strong underneath. Now we're going from Des Moines to downtown Bogotá, Colombia, because Aaron Putze has been on the road. Aaron's the Chief Officer of Brand Management and Engagement at Iowa Soybean Association, and he's been on a trade mission with Lee Brooke, an Iowa soybean farmer from Clarinda and ISA's president-elect. They've been sitting across the table from the largest feed producers in South America, companies buying Iowa soy by the millions of metric tons. Here's Aaron and Lee on the ground in Colombia.
Lee, we're in downtown Bogotá, and, we wanted to find a quiet place for this interview, but good luck with that. In a city of around 8 million, and we're several thousand miles away from home, but we're down here to sell some soybeans and to meet with some customers. So first of all, set the stage. Why is it important to come to a country like Colombia to market and sell Iowa and U.S. soy?
Well, we have an abundance of soybean meal, and we're down here meeting with the top three. We've met with the top three feed producers of Colombia and South America. So they import a lot of our products. So it's great to be here and meet with them.
What's the main message when we come on a trip like this and we're sitting across the table from buyers and those who really need what Iowa and U.S. farmers produce to be able to feed the people here in Colombia? What's the main message you bring to the table?
We have a quality product. We can have a consistent supply, and they tell us that they love our product, the quality, the amino acids in it, and they just like that they're able to work with us.
So the conversations we've had, and they've been very substantive ones, Itacol, Contigral, and also with Sola. And those are, as you said, the three largest buyers, procurers of raw materials. What have they talked about in terms of their procurement of product from the U.S.? What are they looking for? And how does the U.S. soybean product measure up to the competition?
Well, it's amazing. I was really surprised. One of the companies procured 98% of their product from the United States for their feed mill, and another one was 95%, and that third one was in the 80s, close to 90%. So that's just, it shows how important this market is to us, and they like our consistency. Like I said, they like we have a better amino acid package. They don't have to have so much synthetic stuff added to their feed.
Right. Now, this is a big country, and, over 50 million people. They have to import a lot of what they need, and they do it through either ports on the western side of the country or ports on the northern side of the country. And they can bring in product from the Gulf, through the Panama Canal. They can also bring product in if we ship it out through the Pacific Northwest. Of course, they would prefer to bring it from the Gulf through the canal, but logistics, that word came up over and over and over again in the conversations when we would talk to them about some of the challenges, and they would talk about logistics. Share a little bit about what you heard in that on that topic.
Yeah, the logistics is definitely an issue for them, and the Panama Canal right now, they talk like up to 20-day wait period, and then there's an auction process of the pay to get through there, which adds to their tonnage fee, cost wise. But what really, I think, blew a lot of our minds was, they talked about $20 a ton freight to get it from the U.S. down to the ports. But we're in a very mountainous region here in Colombia, and they talked $50 a ton to truck it to where they need it. So it's a huge expense. Their freight is huge, but they need our feed, and that's what they have to do.
They do have those logistical challenges, and they are very keen on getting past those. And I think we've got options. We're here on an AGP trade mission, an AGP, a soybean processor. That's what they do. That's what they focus on. They pull a lot of material from a lot of soybeans from Iowa, from Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, South Dakota, Minnesota. The quality of the product, we've touched a little bit on that. That is an important component of what they're looking for. But they also talk a lot about the importance of relationships. And something that really stood out to me, Lee, was these are family-owned companies, and they value working with family farmers. That's a message we heard, didn't we?
Yeah, we sure did. They are, all these companies that we've met with are generational, just like myself and a lot of the farmers. Most farmers in Iowa are, and they appreciate that value and know that we can supply them. And one thing that you mentioned, AGP, and I think some things some of these feed companies can't take whole vessels. They don't use it they use a lot of stuff, but a whole vessel of soybean meal is a lot. Have to keep quality up in the humid weather. So we've talked with them about working to maybe split some vessels and do containers shipping and different things that help them out, hopefully.
So you're taking away time from your farm. You're down here, and, we're here the first week of June, and there's a lot to do on the farm back in Iowa. You're president-elect of Iowa Soybean Association, so a little bit of this comes with the territory, but why do you personally make time to come down here to meet with buyers, to take time away from the farm?
Well, it's one thing I've learned on my 5 years of being on the board, that when I started some of these mission trips and different trips, that the importance of relationships with these buyers. They have a great need for our product, and we need to export our product. So we know how to raise, and we raise too much. And it's just that people ask me at home, why do you go? And it's like, you need to visit face to face with these people and keep the relationship open. And every place we've been, they say, come back, visit us again. And they love that we're here.
Well, and I think a lot about relationships and the ability to speak the language is just having relatability, being able to relate to the concerns that they have, being able to see it through their eyes. I mean, when you're here, can't you just feel the crush of people and the logistical challenges when they talk about that, and that it can take 3 to 5 days to bring a a truckload of soybean meal down from the northern port here into Bogotá, the terrain that they have to deal with and the logistics and the challenges. And it's one thing to talk about it, maybe a virtual call or over the telephone. It's quite another to be here across the table from them. But not only that, but it's even going from meeting to meeting. What has really, stuck out to you, Lee, as you just have been, as we've moved around the country of Colombia, what have you pondered, I guess, in terms of what you've seen?
It's, the terrain, the trees, and like I say, there's 57 million people in Colombia that these companies are feeding all species of livestock and pets. I think between the three companies, they cover about all the livestock that there is and the pet foods. And it's just, it's beautiful here. People are nice, but, they have definitely some challenges to keep everybody, the animals fed and with the terrain. And it's just something that we don't deal with quite like this at home.
These companies are very, very modern. They are fully integrated.
Yep.
Speak a little bit, Lee, to, what are they sourcing these raw ingredients for? What are the primary markets that they're serving with U.S. Soy? And what have you heard in terms of potential for growth? So first, the species that they're using the soybean for, and what have you heard in terms of their opportunities for even making additional purchases of Iowa and U.S. soy moving forward?
Yeah, poultry, I believe, is their number one consumption of the feed products that they buy from us, and I think pork was right up there, and you got aquaculture, a lot of fish stuff, you have a lot of pet stuff. What am I missing?
I think there was equine, some dairy,
cattle,
and fish. Yeah, so it's all of the above, and the consumption here in the country, I think, as you referenced, I think poultry is surging, pork is surging. A little bit of that, I think we heard, was because beef is much like back home. Yeah. It's just not accessible, maybe for a lot of consumers day to day, but the prospects for future growth is very positive.
It's very positive. And we walked into one of the plants yesterday, and on the wall they had a bunch of signs that entities that they work with, and I recognized two of them right away, which is PIC, which is in pork genetics, and ABS, which is a beef genetics. And I asked them about it, and they said, "Yeah, they've done a great job partnering with those companies to help their products down here. And the pork, they've done great. They're working on the beef to get it more off of the grass fed into more of a grain fed or quality product for their consumers."
It's indeed a small world. And they know where Iowa is. We come here to visit them, but they come to visit Iowa and share information, share some techniques, because these companies, what I heard from them, Lee, what I felt from them was they really exist because they are so family owned, much like your farm. They really feel a duty to serve the people of their homeland, and that starts with making food affordable and accessible.
Yeah, it definitely does. They, you mentioned that the Iowa Pork Congress is going on at home, and there's a delegation from Colombia that is in Iowa right now as we speak, and at the Pork Congress, and I believe they may be coming to the soybean office possibly, and so it's they're just they're generational family people just like we are, and they're feeding their country like we feed our people at home.
As we prepare to head for home, what's something from our time here in Colombia that's really going to stick out to you, that you're going to take with you as you continue in your role as president-elect, and then in September when you take the gavel as president of Iowa Soybean Association? What's something from this trip that's going to stay with you?
Probably the biggest thing that's going to stay with me is how they are committed to buying products from us. When they said 98% of their products come from us, and they want to continue that. I mean, they're happy with it. So it's our job to keep them satisfied and when I was sitting at the table and they tell us how much that they were buying that high percentage from the U.S., that really hit home with me.
Well, and it's, and it's not a small amount, 2 million metric tons and on their way potentially to 2.5 million metric tons. Lastly, Lee, what do you feel when you're here visiting with buyers and they speak so highly of the relationships with farmers like you and with the product you grow?
It just makes you think, and I know it's easy to sit there at home and we haul it to our bins or haul it to our elevator or crusher, and you think that's the last of that, where that bean goes, but it's not. I mean, that bean travels the world and feeds people around the world, and it's just something you got to be proud of.
That was Lee Brooke and Aaron Putze, live from Bogotá, where the buyers are buying up to 98% of their product from the United States, and where a 3 to 5 day truck haul through the mountains doesn't stop them from coming back for more Iowa soy. Lee put it well. You haul it to the elevator and think that's the last of it. But that bean travels the world. It also travels back to the field, because growing more of it, more profitably, more sustainably, is exactly the work our next guest and his team does every day. Joe McClure is the Chief Officer of the Research Center for Farming Innovation at Iowa Soybean Association. His team runs over 200 research locations across Iowa, and they're using one AI-based trial to answer a question that's equal parts practical and provocative. Can a machine out-farm a farmer? Here's Joe McClure.
I'm Joe McClure. I'm the Chief Officer of our Research Center for Farming Innovation at Iowa Soybean. Our team is focused on exploring agronomic questions and supporting conservation implementation. So essentially, our goals are to help farmers meet their goals, whether it's a question in the field on their soybean or even corn crop, or if it's how to implement some conservation on their farm.
What does that look like? Are you out there in the fields? Are you mostly behind the scenes? How's that working?
Myself personally, I'm behind the scenes. We do have a great team who's in the field with farmers, running over 200 locations a year of research, and then working with farmers to implement tens of thousands of acres of cover crops and edge-of-field practices. So there's a lot of people in the field.
I hear you and your team use this term man versus machine. And what does that mean? Why does that exist, that term?
So it's our play on words. We have a research project that we're a partner of, headed out of University of Wisconsin, and we fulfill the Iowa component across the Midwest. And so we run 5 to 6 locations a year for that. And what we're really looking at is using the data collected over the past 10 years of which practices equate to what yield advances or not advances. What should farmers be doing based on the data? And then we pair that up against farmer practice. And so what's the algorithm says you should do versus what you're doing? And then we run that side by side and see on a profitability, which method's the better method. That's
really interesting, because I'm sure you run into a lot of farmers that know their land who maybe are hesitant to adopt technology. How do you deal with that? How do you work with that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But in a lot of these cases and this, it's mainly tweaks. It's not wholesale changes on the farm, because you're right. They know their land, they know their equipment. And so it's tweaks to planting date, or maybe it's products that they use and they've used for the past 10 years that may not be really providing much value. And so maybe stopping doing something so we can drive that profitability up, and not always worried about, can I get from 65 bushel to 68? You may be losing money if you try to chase that last 3 bushel.
So what is the machine then recommending? You talk about the algorithm. What does it recommend? How's it really helping farmers find that profit?
It's very consistently suggesting to plant a little bit earlier than we do, April 15th, April 20th for soybeans. Very consistently suggesting that seed treatment is not a driver for profitability. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be used in certain situations, but it is not a consistent payoff for profit. And then foliar fungicide, and later in the season for leaf diseases, it's only about 20% of the time does it actually yield more profitability. And so that's an area where farmers can actually cut activities and drive more profitability for themselves.
How does that add up across a full operation? I mean, you're talking about squeezing $5 or $10 more an acre using this algorithm. How does that work across the whole operation?
Half bushel to a bushel of added value there. And the good thing about that is it's oftentimes of not changing much, not adding a new equipment, not purchasing anything new. So it's actually eliminating steps or changing slightly. So if you get 750 acres of soybeans, that'll add up. So you can invest that in other ways, save it or whatever. But it'll add up nicely for farmers to really kind of get closer to that break even point, because we're not in break even zone right now.
Has this been a mindset shift then, over generations? Or you find that younger farmers are adopting it quicker?
I would say right now what we're seeing is our older farmers and our younger farmers are adopting things a little quicker. That's dynamics of older farmer may have a little less risk in the game because they may have more things that are owned, less rent, less carrying costs. Younger farmer is, looking to change things, looking to really to drive. The middle of the road, loans and children, and there's a lot of risk there. So making big changes when you've got a lot of risk on the table, maybe a little less likely. So helping them with small changes that don't really add risk or minimize it, and then helping farmers not do it on every acre. Let's try that 40 over there, or let's try something near your house so you can keep an eye on it. That's a good way to do it to minimize risk.
So ISA is one of the many partners, as you said, a University of Wisconsin-led program that's funded by the North Central Soybean Research Program. Tell us about that.
So the North Central Soybean Research Program is a coalition of 13 states in the upper Midwest, as well as around the Great Lakes. And what we do there is we get funding from the 13 soybean organizations that are in those 13 states. And we try to drive research that is cross-institution and cross-discipline. So we want Iowa State researchers to work with Illinois, to work with Ohio State or so on, to drive the best research possible so we're not in silos. And so this project is one of those where we have a researcher out of Wisconsin leading it with a partner out of Penn State. And those folks are leading this effort, and it's covering all 13 states to be able to answer questions for all the farmers, so we don't have pockets of research in each state that's not helping the farmers in the neighboring state.
I can say there are a lot of people that AI, just the term scares them, But this is one of those things where AI is a tool to, as you say, and explain the difference between chasing maximum yield and chasing maximum profit.
Yes, this algorithm that's been developed by these researchers, we can look at it two different ways. We can drive maximum yield and maximum profit, but not every input that drives additional yield will actually pay for itself. What the AI portion of this is really looking at is like, where do you farm? Essentially, what zip code are you in? We know a bit about your soil. We know a lot about your weather. We know what farmers around you, and the data has for the past decade of when they planted, what kind of practices they've used. And we have the data, we've collected the data on the yields of those farmers. We can use that to really assess what's the right decision to make here. And when should you do an activity, planting, whether it's seed treatment, whether it's fungicides, whatever it might be. AI can be a daunting term in our universe today, but in this case, it's providing a tool that can be helpful.
What kind of feedback are you getting? I mean, is this turning some heads? Because this is something that not everyone in the space is doing, but Iowa Soybean is.
Our partner in Wisconsin kind of summarized it really well. When he was doing some early testing, he worked with 5 farmers. The algorithm won all 5 times. He went back to them next year. It won, but a lot less advantageous because all the farmers adapted last year's model. And so
see what happens.
And so if you prove it to me on my farm, I'm going to do it again.
That's a great question. Can a machine out-farm a farmer, right?
I don't think it can. I think it can help a farmer, but the land, the lay of the land, there's so much about that's ingrained from generations. And so it's not looking to replace, but I think it definitely can be a tool as farmers look to be profitable and then hand this to the next generation. This is a good way to reduce risk and drive the best possible outcomes.
So to pivot a little bit, you also have a conservation program called Farm to River. Now, how does that fit into research for farming and innovation?
It goes back to our goals are essentially helping farmers meet their goals. And part of our farmers' goals are addressing water quality concerns, keeping nitrogen in the field where they can use it that year or the next year, driving improvements to habitat, and just generally improving conservation implementation on their farm. So this program is in Carroll, Greene, Sac, and Calhoun counties, which is the North Raccoon area. It's centralized to help those farmers achieve their goals around infield, which is cover crops, or edge of field, whether it's bioreactors or oxbows or any other edge of field practice that essentially slows the water down before it gets to the river, and we can treat it to get the nitrogen out of it before it hits the river.
You've described this sort of as a financial advisor for conservation. Explain that.
If we have farmers that come to us and say, I want to do something on my farm, we'll walk the farm with them and identify this area would be great for this structure. If you're interested in cover crops, we can help you implement those. We get cost share from the state of Iowa for that. And then from the edge of field, there's cost share from the state of Iowa for that as well. And so the edge of field practices are no cost to our farmers.
Do you handle the permitting and the engineering and all that funding sources?
That's the hard part that we take on behalf of the farmers. We handle all the permitting, the organizing of the engineering, getting all the work done. So we work with the farmer to site the location. Where do they want it? Or where they think they want it, and we can alter that to make sure it's going to work. But then we take care of everything after that until it fills up with water and it's doing its job.
So the Farm to River program's focused on the Raccoon watershed area there in Greene County, around Greene County there, and you're partnering with the ACWA. Explain that partnership and who's leading that.
Yeah, so the Farm River Project is a ACWA project, which is Ag Clean Waters Alliance. It's a collection of co-ops in Iowa, started mainly in the Des Moines and Raccoon watersheds, but spread throughout Iowa now. These co-ops are organizing so collectively they can help impact water quality. They are fierce competitors outside of water quality, but within water quality, they're trying to partner together to help advance that issue. Farm to River is one of the projects that they own through the state of Iowa. And then we participate, ISA participates by providing the technical expertise and the manpower to drive this with Alex Slagle running the program. She's doing a great job there and working with those farmers in those 4 counties.
That was Joe McClure, whose team is out in the fields of Iowa with farmers, running trials, crunching data, and quietly handling conservation permitting. Today, that bean traveled from the backing of a turf for dogs in Des Moines to a conference room in the Andes to a 40-acre strip trial in Greene County. And in each of those places, somebody was doing something new with soy. Innovation doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it's turf holding up to 500 dogs and a very committed grounds crew. Sometimes it's a farmer from Clarinda sitting across the table from a feed company in Bogotá that buys 98% of its raw materials from the United States. Sometimes it's an algorithm that tells you to plant earlier and skip a fungicide pass, and it turns out to be right. And sometimes it looks like a farmer standing out at the edge of a field watching a bioreactor do its quiet work before the water ever reaches the river. Which brings us to next time. Joe mentioned Farm to River today, the conservation work ISA is doing in the Raccoon watershed, where they're helping farmers slow the water down, treat it, and keep it clean before it leaves the farm. In August, we're going deeper. We're going to follow Iowa's water upstream all the way back to the farmer and the practices, the programs, and the people working to enhance water quality in Iowa. Be sure to tune in. Before we go, here's your fun soy fact. According to the American Soybean Association, Colombia was the 3rd largest importer of U.S. soybean meal and soybean oil between 2024 and 2025, totaling $979 million in value. Thank you for listening to The Bean Scene, proudly brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow the Iowa Soybean Association on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, or YouTube. We'll catch you next time, where Iowa soy meets life. Until then, keep growing.